I'm John Norton with WGLT reporters Melissa Ellin and Lyndsay Jones to start the show. They've just wrapped up a deep dive into a Bloomington nonprofit's organizational struggles over the past year. As PATH Crisis Center begins 2024 with a new interim CEO, some former and current staff members and community leaders say the work to stabilize the 53-year-old social service is ongoing. First of all, Melissa, Lyndsay, thanks for joining us on Sound Ideas in studio today.
Thanks for having us, John.
I'm going to start with you, Melissa. Briefly,
right.
Can you what happened?
So I think it's important to start by saying that PATH's CEO died in April. So there was an interim who took over as CEO and executive director. And that person made some pretty sweeping changes. Executive leadership was effectively gutted. So some positions turned over multiple times. And through this and our reporting, we understand that there was institutional information lost, and the organization is really just still trying to recover from that.
Lyndsay, can I turn to you and ask you why this even matters? Why does it matter?
Yeah, that's a great question. PATH has been around in our community for over half a century, and they're a key player in the social services scene, not just in McLean County, but also several others in Central Illinois as well. They operate both the 211 referral line and the 988 crisis line. So a sudden loss of institutional knowledge about what it takes for PATH as a nonprofit to function and work with other agencies is definitely going to affect it. And that's played out in employee turnover at the state's largest 988 crisis call center, which PATH operates. And that's also impacted the extent to which it provides homeless services in our area. So in our story, we speak with Matt Burgess, the CEO of Home Sweet Home Ministries, about how his agency has had to pick up some additional services, like sourcing ID cards because of what's happened at PATH. Burgess told us this.
We expect this to be something that we continue to do, both because it makes sense for us to do in the setting of our community center where people from the public are coming in, but also out of necessity. I would only speculate to say whether PATH would take this back up or not.
Melissa, I'm going to go back to you on this one. How did you find out about it?
You know, I can't reveal my sources. What I can say is that this has been a conversation in certain social circles in the community for a while now. As Lyndsay said before, PATH's reach is pretty wide in our community and Central Illinois as a whole. A lot of individuals and organizations that collaborate with PATH have been talking about this, and that includes local government. I really don't think anyone, including us, recognize the extent to which all of the turnover and the changes within PATH have impacted everything. So that comes down to day-to-day operations in the organization too.
Okay, speaking of not revealing sources, my limited understanding of the story, though, is there are a few people included whose names are not revealed. Can you talk about that? Lyndsay.
Yeah, so we spoke to a lot of people for this story. It was at least a dozen. And you're not going to see all of them quoted, but every single one of them helped us get a better grasp of what happened really over the past year within PATH. Some of those people that we spoke to, they work at PATH. Some of them used to work there, but they're all still connected to that organization. And I think the culture there was so uncertain for a time that while people really wanted to voice their concerns for the organization, they also weren't sure if they could do that. So we agreed to keep some folks' names out of the story, but in doing so, we also cross-checked what they told us with either other additional sources who could back them up or people who agreed to go on record with us. So there was a lot of fact-checking and supplemental verification of claims on our end to make sure this was as accurate as possible, even though some names are not included.
Okay.
Yeah, and if I can add something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we learned a lot about PATH through our reporting, probably more than we ever needed to know about the organization. Nevertheless, our story is not a reflection of everything that we did learn. It literally could not be. What the story is meant to do is to give people an understanding of where PATH is heading, how it got to this point as well. So it's not a secret that PATH has been going through organizational changes. We've established that. People in the community knew about this. But what people don't necessarily know, and what we hope to share through this story, is the impact that this has had in the community. And, there's still time for change. There's a new interim CEO, which we've mentioned. Adam Carter is his name. And we spoke to him, and he was pretty transparent about the fact that PATH is actively turning over a new leaf, starting a new chapter, and it's getting help from the community to be able to do this.
All right, you've mentioned interim CEO a couple of times now. Adam Carter, you just mentioned him by name. How long has he been there?
Yeah, so I'll take that one. He accepted the offer from the board of directors on December 27th, so the position was filled relatively recently. The board did tell us they are currently in the process of searching for an actual permanent CEO. They haven't had that permanently filled since April of last year. Adam Carter did tell us that he threw his hat in the ring for the job, but the board says they've had over 80 applications so far. They haven't set a hard deadline for their hiring process, but they've emphasized to us the process is really about finding the best fit for that position, however long that may take.
Melissa, I'm going to go to you on this one. What happened between April and December?
So you're right. There were about 8 months where there was an interim CEO in place who was not Adam Carter. We were not able to connect with this person. We did reach out to her multiple times and just never heard back. Now, there was a lot of staff turnover during this time, and some of the people that we spoke to were pretty troubled by some of the decisions that she made. We were told there was a sudden cultural shift, particularly in the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline call center, and it became really difficult, according to those people, for them to be able to work there. A lot of people also lost their jobs, including Adam Carter. So he actually was brought back to the organization to serve as interim CEO. And it's essentially a different organization now, and we really do get more into this in the story itself.
Wow. This is quite a few twists and turns already in this story. Let's go to Lyndsay now. And is it too early to say? Are things getting better?
I mean, that's the hope, right? I think that's, the hope not only of the people that are directly involved with PATH, but also many of the community partners, whether they're, local government leaders or other social service agencies. The hope is that the organization has turned a new chapter. Some of the people that we've spoken to for the story have reached out since Adam Carter was brought back, and they've expressed optimism that he's at the helm, and they're hopeful for the future because of that. We were able to speak to him directly after his appointment, and I think he sums up his vision for the organization nicely himself.
What I want to share is that from a transparent perspective, if I do transition out, my goal and what I would like to look back on is to see that the relationship aspect that PATH was formed on has been brought back to the center and the forefront of what we do.
Guys, what a story. Thank you for reporting on it. Probably a lot more to the story still to come.
We'd say so.
Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be opportunities for us to follow up and watch this transition play out in the coming months for sure.
Well, certainly nice job on this very difficult story to report on. Lyndsay Jones, Melissa Ellin from the WGLT Newsroom, thanks for the reporting and thanks for joining us on Sound Ideas today.
Thank you.
Thank you.